Polling booths are closing across Uganda in parliamentary and presidential elections. Coming up, we'll look at whether the country's leader, Yoweri Museveni, can extend his term in office. And Japan abandoned its whale hunting season in the Antarctic, citing harassment by activists at sea.
As the dry condition extends over Amritsar, we'll find the right flavour to tempt your palate.
Hello again. Well, over in the States, and it's the western parts where we're seeing the heaviest downpours at the moment. On the satellite picture, you can see this whole trail of cloud and then more of it just pushing its way further south as well. For the southern parts of California, we really don't know how to cope with this much rain. So we are likely to see some flooding and maybe some landslides and mudslides as well as we head through the next few days. Certainly very, very wet, though. And as you head further north, as you might expect, all of that wet weather does turn to snow. Now, further east, it's actually been really quite hot over the past couple of days, but there will be a change for Saturday. Our top temperature in New York, this time only 6 degrees and only 13 in Washington, D.C. OK, 13 is still a decent temperature, but it is quite a bit down on Friday's temperatures. Over towards Europe, and it's in the Mediterranean where we've got the wettest of the weather currently. You can see the swirl here on the satellite picture. This storm is really intensifying as it gradually runs its way eastwards. Probably the worst of the weather, the heaviest of the thunderstorms, are likely to be in the western parts of Greece and the western parts of Turkey too as we head through the next couple of days. So there's that storm here. Torrentially heavy rain out of this really will give us some flash flooding. Further north, it's still quite quiet for the northeastern parts of Europe. Minus 21 as the maximum there in Moscow. Further west, we're going to see yet more rain pile in.
Qatar Airways, world's 5-star airline.
The main stories here on AlJazeera.
From the world to your phone. AlJazeera Mobile.
On the next RizCon show, the battle over blasphemy. Has Pakistan's controversial law become a political tool in the hands of religious conservatives? RizCon at this time on Al Jazeera.
Be thrilled by the speed. Be delighted by the tastes. Be inspired by the sights. And enjoy the hospitality. The Muscat Festival. It's here, January 27th to February 24th.
A reminder of our top stories on Al Jazeera. Tens of thousands of Egyptians are in Cairo's Liberation Square as part of a nationwide march of victory. They're celebrating 1 week since former President Hosni Mubarak stepped down from power. In Bahrain, hundreds have marched in support of the country's ruling monarchy in the capital, Manama. It came as thousands attended funerals for 4 people killed when the security forces attacked pro-democracy demonstrators on Thursday. And in Yemen, a so-called Friday of Rage has drawn thousands of protesters. 6 people have been killed in several cities across the country. Now, polls are about to close in Uganda, where voters have been casting their ballots in an election widely expected to extend Yoweri Museveni's 25-year grip on power. It's only the second multi-party election in the East African nation in 30 years. Museveni is facing a record 7 challenges, but he faces his stiffest competition from former ally and personal physician Kizza Besigye. From Kampala, here's Mohamed Addo.
Tempers flare in Kampala on polling day. Most voting booths did not open on time, and after a long wait, some voters simply lost their patience. The delays were caused by the late deliveries of voting material. Election officials had to reassure voters that all will be allowed to vote.
No one will be turned away as long as you're standing 5 prompt. Every voter that is standing in front of the election constable will be allowed to vote.
Uganda is a fledgling democracy, and this is just its 6th election in 49 years. And presented with the opportunity to vote once again, many Ugandans are doing so with a deep conviction.
I voted for Museveni straight away. He has given us peace. We are doing if you move around, I know you are a journalist, you move around, you will see development going on.
With the BSJ going through, corruption will have an end. We shall have more drugs in hospitals, better roads than we have, and at least a balanced regional peace.
This is a hotly contested election. President Museveni's 25-year rule of Uganda is facing a stiff challenge from 7 opposition candidates. They say they want to scatter the country's votes to deny Museveni an outright win and then sponsor a single candidate against him in a runoff. Kizza Besigye, Museveni's most formidable challenger, says he doesn't trust the country's election commission. He plans to do his own vote tallying and announcement. The government says he will be arrested if he carries out his threat. And if that happens, things could take a turn for the worse. Mohamed Ado, AlJazeera, Kampala, Uganda.
Now to Jordan, where clashes have broken out in the capital, Amman. Hundreds of activists who took to the streets demanding political and economic reform there. Some of them clashed with pro-government supporters. It's the 7th straight Friday that Jordanians have come out in force and in large numbers to demand more democratic rights. The Iraqi government, meanwhile, has imposed a curfew in parts of the country in response to angry protests. At least 3 people have been killed. In Basra, in the south, protesters have blocked a bridge. They're calling on the provincial governor to quit and are demanding better services from the government. Hundreds of people are demonstrating in the Pakistani city of Lahore over the shooting death of 2 Pakistanis by an American man last month. Raymond Davis says he was acting in self-defense, and the U.S. claims he has diplomatic immunity because he works for the embassy. But religious and political groups want him to face trial in Pakistan. Zain Basravi reports.
This busy intersection here in the center of Lahore is where Raymond Davis admits he shot and killed 2 Pakistani men in January. And as Friday prayers have come to a close, worshippers have come out of the mosques and into the streets to protest against what happened here, which, it has to be said, still isn't exactly clear. The crowd here includes religious groups as well as political parties that are using this case as an opportunity to voice their anger against American policy in the region that they say has caused instability inside Pakistan. The government here is worried that if it doesn't do something soon to subdue the anger, then protests like these could be seen across the country in much larger numbers. The crowds here, these organizations, these groups have a great deal of street power and a great deal of sway with the public. They've also made attempts to stall any kind of deal being made that would allow blood money or compensation to be paid to the grieved families in exchange for Davis's freedom. Any deal like that simply wouldn't sit well with an angry public that is calling for Davis to be hanged. For protesters here, it's one thing for the United States and Pakistan to make deals over major policy, but an American citizen gunning down 2 men in the street, even in self-defense, is just one step too far.
Police in Afghanistan say 9 people are dead after a bomb blast in the eastern city of Khost. A further 30 people were injured in the attack carried out by a suicide bomber with a carload of explosives. Most of the victims are civilians. The Taliban have claimed responsibility.